That's very sad. As I said, I'm glad they left it to the end, but it's still very sad. Anyway, that was your number 8. And number 7, I'm gonna go for. Friends. Now, you might be thinking, hang on, Friends, there's not many sad moments in Friends. And you're right, because none of the main characters die. Nobody really lovable dies Nobody really lovable dies in Friends, but there is one scene particularly that always gets to me, and I'm a huge fan of Friends, probably the biggest fan that's out there. I've seen every single episode maybe 10, 20 times. But there's one scene that always gets me, and it's a scene where basically David, Phoebe's, basically love of her life, comes back from Minsk for a couple of days, and she bumps into him and in the coffee house, and they talk and they make plans to meet up later on. But then she says, oh no, wait, I have plans with Joey. And earlier in the episode, she makes a big deal about Joey cancelling on her to go out with a date. So she's like, oh, I can't do that to Joey because I made a big deal about it. So instead what she does is she makes plans for later on. So she rushes through the dinner with Joey, and then she goes to David. Now, the scene I'm talking about basically happens after they've had the dinner, and David is getting back in the cab to go to the airport to basically go to Minsk again, and she probably won't see him for a while. So basically, they hug, they say goodbye, they kiss each other on the cheek. They don't say they love each other, but they kind of motion towards it. And then as he's going off, as the cab driver is driving him off, you can see she's getting upset. But then Joey comes around the corner, and it looks like he's going to have a go at her because she basically not stood him up, but did basically what he did earlier in the episode. Which, anyway, she turns around, and you can see in her face she's crying, and she's like, oh Joey, now's not the time, you can shout at me later. And it's like, no, I don't want to shout at you, I was just thinking, how bummed you were when David first left. And then Phoebe gets all really upset, and she's like, oh, the only man I've ever loved is gone, and he's on his way to Minsk, and I may never see him again. And she starts crying, and Joey hugs her, and sad music plays, and it goes to the end of the episode. Now, for me, it might not sound sad to other people, but for me, because I'm such a big fan of Friends, and I'm emotionally involved in each of the characters, it was very sad to me. I mean, to see such a touching moment in an otherwise series that's supposed to be really funny, I liked how they put that in. So that was your number 7. At number 6, I would have to say, just trying to think now. Number 6, we're going to have Scrubs again, and it is the basically it's the scene where JD just can't control his tears any longer. There's a woman that's just told her son that his dad's just died of cancer, and he can't control his tears anymore, and he's trying to teach Joe to be more compassionate, and it's not working out, and he gets very sad about it, and it's a very emotional moment, and there's a lot of emotional moments in Scrubs, and you'll find that out because there is 1 or 2 more moments that I'm going to include in this video. It is sad, and it made me teary-eyed because I've watched every single episode of Scrubs, and I have to say, at least once or twice every season, there was a scene or a moment that made me cry, and there's no exaggeration there. You're bound to get that because it's a hospital. There's bound to be people dying, and there's bound to be some kind of main person die, because it always seems to be the way in a hospital-related program. But yeah, he gets very teary-eyed because he sees this woman telling her son that his dad's just died of cancer. And yeah, it's just a very emotional scene. At number 5, now, you may think this is a really sad moment, it should be further up, but because I'm not a huge fan of the show, I only got into it like late on. I'm gonna have it at number 5, and it's Finn's death in Glee. Now, of course, Finn's death came about because the actor who played him, Corey Monteith, passed away, drug overdose, alcohol in his system, and they did a special tribute episode. Now, there was never ever kind of doubt that they weren't going to do that, because he was one of the main characters. There was 2 main characters, Corey Monteith, I don't know Finn and Rachel, who is played by Corey Monteith and Leah Michelle. They were the 2 main characters, and you had to imagine that one of their main characters dying in real life, they had to do something for the character in the show. Now, they did have him die in the show, but there was never an explanation of how he died. It was a very sad episode. There was numerous songs in the episode. I mean, around about the time he died, I kind of got into it. Now, I didn't just watch it because I wanted to see the tribute. I actually started watching it a couple of episodes beforehand. I'd seen it, in the couple of first... I've seen a couple of episodes in the first couple of seasons because my dad watched it, but I never really got into it. But then at the start of the 5th season, I thought, I'll give it a go. So I did, and I did like it, and I have to say, because I hadn't been emotionally involved in the show from the start, I did find it sad, but not as sad as big Glee fans, geeks. I did get teary-eyed, I'm not saying I didn't, but I didn't, absolutely bawl my eyes out like some of the fans I've seen reaction videos, some of them have absolutely bawled their eyes out. I mean, it was very sad, and that's why I'm including it at number 5, not any further up, because I'm not a big fan of the show, but I think it deserves to be on the list. That's number 5. Number 4, I would probably say, yet again, another Scrubs. Another Scrubs. Sorry about my dogs. Another Scrubs scene. Now, for me, this is the saddest scene. It is when you see Dr. Cox for the first time really vulnerable. His best friend, Jordan's brother, Ben, dies. He dies of pneumonia or whatever it was. I think it's pneumonia. And basically, throughout the whole episode, even though he's dead, he's still appearing next to Dr. Cox, but no one else can see him, only he can see him, because Dr. Cox can't get over the fact that his best friend's died. And then you get to the funeral part, and Dr. Cox, it makes you just cry when you see this scene. But it's in the scene I'm talking about. The whole episode really is sad, but the ending of the episode